Chris Jericho's Rockin' Wrestling Rager at Sea was historic in a couple of different ways. And was it a good show? You're damn right it was. Let's get into it. What is happening, ladies and germs? This is the PackerMan, and welcome to today's edition of All Elite Review, where today we are going to be talking about, as I try to adjust my freaking camera here, there we go, sort of, as we talk about Chris Jericho's Rockin' Wrestling Rager Part Deux Second Wave, well, at Sea Part Deux Second Wave, which was a special edition of AEW Dynamite last Wednesday. I apologize that this review is coming a week late, but I had to get a tooth extraction because I had a toothache and it was just, well, it was giving me a lot of pains, literally. Like, I mean, it got to the point where I couldn't even sleep properly. So, yeah, that was fun. Quite the weird experience getting your face numbed and then having your tooth pulled out. Hopefully I don't have to do that again too many times in the future. Let's go ahead and get this review done and over with. Because I still got the Cleveland review to do as well. But, boy, the action started fast and furious with this one. Because they started out with the AEW Tag Team Championship match between SCU, the champions, and the Omega Cowboys, Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page, who a lot of people are saying that his transition into this kind of drunken cowboy kind of character has really appealed to a lot of people, because before this whole thing started, you know, he definitely had, you know, the charisma, I think, but there was just something that didn't quite click with the fans, because he was kind of over, but not to the extent where he could become a big star. But with this new drunken cowboy gimmick that he's got going on, it's pretty obvious that the crowd is into him now. So maybe that was the missing piece. But this would see a history-making event, and here's why. Highlights of this match, and there were a lot, trust me. Kaz and Page start trading forearm shots and lariats at the beginning. Kaz hits his 3-hit combo on Page. Omega with a Kotaro Crusher on Scorpio Sky for a 2 count. Hangman Page with a fall-away slam on Scorpio Sky. Kaz hits his wheel kick on Page, followed by a nice springboard leg drop. He does those really well. Sky hits a drop kick on Omega. Kaz with a suplex on Page for a 2 count. Kazarian with a German suplex on Page. Then Page fires back with a lariat. Kaz hits a lung blower impaler for a 2 count on Page. And by impaler I mean the Christian's finisher, if you know who Christian is. Page and Kazarian lariat each other, so they both tag in to their partners. Omega hits a Frankensteiner and a Fisherman Buster on Scorpio Sky. And then he hits a Snapdragon suplex on Kaz. And then him and Page do their Singapore roll, running shooting star press moonsault combo on Sky. Only got a 2 count out of it though. Omega with a Sky High on Scorpio Sky for a 2 count. Sky hits a nice top rope Frankensteiner on Omega. Page goes for the buckshot lariat but accidentally hits Omega, and that's when Sky takes advantage. Hits his TKO, which is typically his finisher, but only gets a 2 count after Page breaks it up. Kazarian hits a slingshot cutter on Page. SCU with a assisted DDT on Omega, only got a 2 count out of it though. Omega hits the V trigger on Scorpio Sky. Page with a discus lariat on Kazarian for a 2 count. Page hits an avalanche fallaway slam on Kazarian. Both Omega and Page hit tag team combos. Omega hits a Tiger Driver 98 on Kazarian for a 2 count. But then SCU comes back and hits the SCU later on Omega for 2. But Page breaks up the count by pushing Scorpio Sky back into Kazarian, because Scorpio Sky was running over to try to stop Page from breaking up the count, but then Page just uses his power and just pushes Scorpio Sky back into the cover, and that breaks up the 3 count, which causes some frustration to emanate from Kazarian. Then Page drags Omega back to his corner, gets a tag, and starts fighting both members of SCU. He throws Scorpio Sky out of the ring and onto the ramp. Hits a big boot counter on Kazarian, then hits a pop-up powerbomb and then a discus lariat on Kazarian. And then he focuses on Scorpio Sky and hits a buckshot lariat, turns around, and it's another buckshot lariat on Kazarian, and gets the 3 count and the victory. So your winners and new AEW World Tag Team Champions, Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page. And of course, you know, Page selling the fact that he was kind of in disbelief that it was like, oh my god, I actually did it, you know. And then the Young Bucks come out to congratulate them both, which, you know, Page was a little bit annoyed at, because it's like, hey, this is not your moment, this is my moment. So then the funniest fucking shit happened when he left the ring, climbs over the barricade, gets a beer from one of the fans, and he actually starts fucking crowd surfing through the fans, holding the championship belt in one hand, beer in the other hand, and the crowd was just going fucking nuts. I mean, when Page got the 3 count for the victory, I mean, of course this was on Chris Jericho's boat, so there was like 2,000 people, but I mean, when Page got the 3 count for the victory, the roof came off the fucking place. I mean, everybody in the crowd just erupted. I mean, this was a big moment. The first title change in AEW history, and your new champions, of course, Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page. Of course, Page has suddenly become a super popular, you know, wrestler. You know, he was kind of on that brink, but now with this new development in his character, you know, being the drunken cowboy, likes to fight and shit, you know, he's taking it basically to that next level. So I think it's definitely obvious that they found what they were missing with Hangman Page. This was an awesome start to the show. 4.5 stars out of 5, without a doubt. The next match was a singles match in the women's division. Priscilla Kelly making her singles debut in AEW. I think she was a part of the Casino Battle Royal at All Out, and she takes on Britt Baker, who of course is top 5 in the rankings. This was an match. I mean, it wasn't really that spectacular, to be honest. I mean, you know, one thing I will say was it's better than that fucking, you know, Nightmare Collective crap, you know. And apparently they also they cut like a little promo vignette thingamajigger, and they posted it on their Twitter account, where Brandy was basically like in some kind of therapy session, and at the end of it she changed from her Nightmare Collective outfit into like a regular attire. So it's like, maybe they finally got the hint that the Nightmare Collective was trash, and they're phasing it out finally, because let's be honest here, that shit just, it was not getting it. It just wasn't. But highlights of this match, there weren't a whole hell of a lot, unfortunately. Baker with several pinning moves. Kelly hits a nice arm drag and a couple of spinal taps. Baker with some nice lariats and a flying knee strike. She hits her sling blade for a 2 count, which actually looked good. Kelly hits another lariat for a 2 count. Tried to go for like a running knee strike, but Baker moves out of the way and hits a nice super kick. One thing I will give Britt Baker credit for, her performances by and large have been really inconsistent, but when she's on, she fucking hits it. And one of the things that she really seems to hit well is her super kick. Obviously she must get that from her boyfriend Adam Cole, because of course he throws some great super kicks himself. But Baker, I think, among the women's division, has the best super kick. So then she hits a Russian leg sweep and a lockjaw, and gets the submission victory. I gave this match 2.25 stars out of 5. Nothing too special. After the match, Tony Schiavone interviews Baker, and then Baker basically completes her heel turn by basically insulting Tony and everyone else in the crowd, although it definitely didn't seem like she was, confident in what she was saying. It definitely felt a little forced in this case. Didn't really feel like she was really into it. Keep that in mind though, because for the next review, that actually changes, because they give her another chance for the Cleveland show, and it was a hell of a lot better. I will say that much. But yep, I would say the Britt Baker heel turn has basically reached its fruition, and it really starts to get good next week though. So we'll get to that when we get to it. Next match was a 6-man tag. Jurassic Express taking on the Inner Circle. One of the coolest things, when Jericho came out with the Inner Circle, and this was, of course, his cruise. The show's named after him. He basically got the biggest reaction out of anybody, honestly. And the other cool thing, which they added onto their YouTube channel without any commentary and shit, was the fact that the fans were actually singing his theme song, and even when the song faded out, they were still singing it. And Jericho, even he put his hand up to his ear like that, and he could listen, he could hear them all just singing his theme song. And then when it finally ended, when they finally stopped singing and they cheered, you could see Jericho kind of had this, he was trying to hide the smile that was on his face, because it's like, he's like, yeah, this is cool as hell, because that's his theme song, that he sang with his band Fozzy, and the crowd was basically singing it. So that was a pretty cool moment, to say the least. And he's supposed to be the mega heel, but sometimes you just can't help but smile at that, One thing I will say, that the crowd for this show, I mean, it was very intimate. And plus, the wrestling was a little bit safer than usual, basically because they didn't really have much room to move around, because they were, on a ship and stuff. But the setting definitely added a lot more pizzazz to the show than usual. And the wrestling was definitely a little bit safer because, the limited surroundings. But the crowd was also kind of packed in and shit. And it really made it feel like a genuine, wrestling show, And it showed in the wrestling too, because the wrestling on this show was really very good. So, highlights of this 6-man tag as a car outside goes whizzing by. I'm pretty sure the mic picked that up. So Jungle Boy hits a drop kick on Y2J, and then a Frankensteiner on Ortiz. Jungle Boy with a backflip arm drag, and then a drop kick on Ortiz for 2 count. Jungle Express with a Cazadora spinning DDT combo on Santana, which always looks really good. Luchasaurus with a big boot on Santana for a 2 count. Jungle Boy with a spinal tap on Santana for a 2 count. So Jurassic Express was getting in a lot of the offense early on, before Inner Circle took over. Santana with an avalanche leg sweep for a 2 count on Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy with a spinning schoolboy on Y2J, only got 2 count, but then Jericho hits a lariat on him. Santana with a pendulum backbreaker on Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy hits a flying crossbody on Jericho for a 2 count. Proud and Powerful does some nice tag team combinations on Jungle Boy for a 2 count. Jungle Boy hits a poison Frankensteiner on Ortiz. and gets the hot tag to Luchasaurus, who does all kinds of this crazy martial arts shit on the inner circle. Hits the tail whip, which is his back spinning roundhouse on Santana, and then does a double choke slam on Ortiz and Jericho, which is pretty impressive. And he hits a standing moonsault on Jericho, only gets a 2 count. Of course, Jake Hager gets involved, so Luchasaurus goes after him. But first he tags out to Marco Stunt, who hits a 450 splash on Jericho for a 2 count, which got everybody up. It's like, holy shit, he almost pinned Jericho. He does a lot of pinning combinations on Jericho, but then Jericho decides, fuck this noise, and he hits the Judas Effect spinning back elbow on Marco Stunt for the 3 count and the victory. Pretty good match here. I gave it 3.75 stars out of 5. So wrestling so far has been pretty good. This next match was also pretty good, all things considered. And there was a smattering of storylines coming out of this one. Of course, you have MJF. This is the MJF versus Joey Janela. Of course, Janela coming off a big win against Rey Fenix, although they did say that Rey Fenix might have been injured during the match, although he will be in action next week in an 8-man tag on Dynamite. Not the Cleveland show, the one after that. And of course, there's also the storyline with Janela and Kip Sabian, and of course the love triangle that's kind of going on between them. So, highlights of this match. We had a good exchange by both wrestlers. MJF is definitely a damn good talker. But one thing that's kind of underrated is, the guy can wrestle, and he's only 23 years old, so he's got a lot of years ahead of him as far as, his wrestling career is concerned. And, of course, he's got that old school heel tactic shit going on. He's playing possum on the ramp, knocks the shit out of Janela. Janela with a back body drop on MJF from the ramp. MJF hits a nice forearm shot. And then a body slam and a senton splash for a 2 count. Gets in a nice waist clutch because Janela kind of had some injured ribs around this point during the match, kayfabe ways. MJF with a fireman carry gut buster. They go to a commercial break. Janela hits a nice superplex for a 2 count. Then he goes up to go for the dynamic elbow drop, which is the move he beat Phoenix with, and then Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford distract Janela on the ramp. Janela tries to go for the diving elbow, but MJF moves out of the way. And then MJF hits the double cross, which is his version of the crossroads for the 3 count and the victory. I gave this match 3.5 stars out of 5. Afterwards, MJF gets on the mic and starts dissing Cody, who eventually comes out and faces off with MJF. Basically, it was like, yeah, you can't touch me until Revolution, Cody. And then Cody got the mic and was like, yeah, I can't touch you. And then from behind MJF come the Young Bucks, and then Cody is like, but they can. And then MJF turns around and gets a super kick party courtesy of the Young Bucks. And then they send MJF into the pool, much to the delight of the crowd on that boat. So, really good segment right here. And then Tony interviews Kenny Omega and Adam Page. Basically talking with Omega, and then he switches over to Page, and then Page starts saying, yeah, I kicked some ass, and then Tony basically cut him off and switched back to Omega, which really pissed Page off, and then he went back to Page, and Page was about to speak, and then the Young Bucks came in and interrupted, and you can see that it really annoyed the hell out of Page, and Adam Page is basically like, yeah, it's pretty amazing that we got the championships before you did, which seemed to annoy the Young Bucks as well, and then Page is like, alright, I'll see y'all later. And goes off to basically drink some more. So that's how that went. And then we get our main event. Number 1 contenders match for the AEW Championship between Pac and Jon Moxley. This is basically a main event we got many weeks ago. And it ended in a time limit draw. One thing I will give AEW credit is that in recent weeks their time management has gotten a lot better. And it was pretty evident here because this match was given a lot of room to breathe. I mean, it was given a little over 20 minutes basically to breathe, and it kind of had that main event feel to it. You know what I mean? So highlights of this match, and there were quite a bit. There was good mat wrestling by both. Of course, when you have two guys like Pac and Jon Moxley, two high caliber wrestlers in there, it's going to be a damn good match. And these two seem to have some great chemistry in the ring too. Moxley hits a nice German suplex. Pac starts going for the injured eye, of course, which is smart, in storyline. That is pretty smart. Pac hits a nice knee drop. Moxley sends Pac over the guardrail, and again fighting in the crowd. Pac, after they get back into the ring, Pac hits a missile drop kick, which Moxley rolls backwards and rebounds into a lariat. Both start trading forearm shots. Mox hits an X-plex for a 2 count. Pac hits 2 jawbreakers, and one where he actually did a jawbreaker to Moxley's eye. So that was pretty smart. Mox pushes Pac off the top rope after Pac was trying to do a move up there. Pac tries to go for the brutalizer, but Moxley counters it into a pin. Pac hits an enziguri and then a basement drop kick for a 2 count. Moxley counters a 450 splash from Pac into a pin. Pac hits the rebound German suplex, but misses the black arrow. Corkscrew shooting star press. Pac hits a nice super kick, but then Moxley counters into a paradigm shift, only got a 2 count. Pac hits a superplex and transitions into the brutalizer, but Moxley gets to the bottom rope. Moxley hits a small package for a 2 count, but then hits a paradigm shift on Pac and then picks him up and hits a Death Rider and gets the 3 count and the victory. So your winner and #1 contender for Chris Jericho's AEW Championship is Jon Moxley. And I gave this match 4.5 stars out of 5. And of course Jericho, he had come out to basically talk talk on a commentary afterwards. But yeah, that match between Moxley and Jericho is set for Revolution, and it will be the main event for the AEW Championship. So that's something to really look forward to. There were a couple other matches that were a part of the Rock and Wrestling Rager. There was Kip Sabian against fucking QT Marshall, I think, which was featured on Dark. One match that probably isn't going to be featured, unfortunately, is the first ever intergender tag match, which featured Kenny Omega and Riho against Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford, which apparently was received very well by the members of the Cruise, because Kenny kind of did it as an experiment with the crowd and kind of gauged the crowd's reaction, and apparently it received rave reviews, where you have the men fighting the women and vice versa. But apparently got some rave reviews, and Omega and Riho won that match. So there's that. But yeah, this was a damn good show. Great wrestling all around. Storylines being continued. We have a definitive #1 contender for the AEW Championship, and we have new tag team champions. Overall, this was a damn good show. I give the Rock and Wrestling Rager a 9 out of 10. It was a damn good show, very enjoyable. Unfortunately, it's the last of the theme shows for a while, I would say, which is kind of a shame, because I was really enjoying the theme shit, from Bash at the Beach, the previous week, to the Rock and Wrestling Rager. That was actually pretty fun, but it's back to normal things next week for Dynamite, which was the Cleveland show, which I will be reviewing in a little bit. One final thing of note, the Wednesday Night Wars, for those of you keeping score. AEW, despite the fact that this episode was a tape show because it was taped on Tuesday night and then aired on Wednesday, despite that, AEW still got 870,000 viewers, while NXT got, I think, like 765,000. So kind of par for the course for both shows. But AEW with another win in the ratings war, basically. As my phone goes off. But if you're keeping score at home, that's AEW leading 11-3 with one tie. So it's basically all going AEW right now, here at the start of the year. But that's going to do it for this edition of All Elite Review. Thank you very much for watching. Coming up, and of course, I showed this week's rankings, well, prior to Rock and Wrestling Rager at the beginning of the episode. And now, to end off the episode, here are my rankings after this week. Shut up! Damn it. Freaking phone. But yeah, coming up next is my rankings for this week. But thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the PackerMan signing out. Bye. You better like and subscribe or face the consequences. You have been warned.